It's been 40 years since the first Pride was held here in Tampa. The party we know today sure looks different, but the purpose behind it has not changed. I'm Josh Sidorowicz. This next half hour is as much about the progress we've made as the fight that continues. You'll meet some of the advocates on the front lines of that push for equality for every member of our LGBTQ community. See some history in the way that you never have seen it before, and we hope leave with a sense of why we are proud to be in the Bay. You can't really know where you're going till you know where you've been, said poet Maya Angelou. Understanding how Pride began here in Tampa Bay starts with uncovering the history that's often been hidden away. This is the history.
And in this box, we have a lot of newspapers.
That hasn't been included in the textbooks.
It's a lot.
Thousands and thousands of papers, pictures, pamphlets.
Shelves and never-ending shelves of boxes of just glorious queer history.
The history that's so often been hidden.
So this is our main special collections department.
Now, right here on the 4th floor of the USF Tampa Library, a collection nearly 20 years in the making, documenting the good, the grotesque, the gay history of Florida and Tampa Bay in a way you have never seen it before.
You'll see a lot of...
Sydney Jordan and Mimi Koto are part of the small staff trying to piece it all together.
You get a sense of work locally that went into sustaining the communities, what people were fighting for and against to get to that moment of pride and celebration. There's a whole history behind it.
Like these photos dating back to the 1940s and 50s, taken by local trans photographer Bobby Smith in the Tampa bars that would become havens for the LGBTQ community.
And there are a lot of newspaper articles about raids in them, and police interactions in the bars, but this was a photographer who was just taking pictures of friends. He met his wife there. These are places, we've looked up the addresses, they don't exist anymore. The buildings themselves were historic buildings, they're not there. There's no record maintained of it. A lot of that generation is no longer around, and it's very important to connect people with that.
You could spend hours thumbing through the photos alone, snapshots into the early years of Pride in Tampa Bay.
You realize too how kind of more mainstream these have become.
Posters and pamphlets show the progress and the persecution endured to get there.
We do have historic documents, like the purple pamphlet.
Jordan showed us some of the records from the Johns Committee, the Florida legislature's literal hunt for homosexuals in the state's universities back in the 1950s and 60s.
It was a study of, the homosexual threat in the state of Florida.
These are the records of a hidden, sometimes hideous history right here at home. A history that so often was hiding in plain sight.
This is our queer LGBTQ plus history locally. And that's the best part of this, is that you can find scenes and places that you can still see today and see that queer and LGBTQ plus people existed.
The first St. Pete Pride Parade marched right down Central Avenue here 20 years ago. This year, as they mark a major milestone, the organization's new president says the mission is more critical than ever.
When I first started monitoring the St. Pete Pride Facebook page, it kind of blew me away. These weren't trolls, these were real people living right here in St. Pete, right? Shamelessly just saying horrible things. And I thought, you know what? We're gonna make this the gayest city in America. That's what we're gonna do. We are gonna put rainbows everywhere. We are gonna have the best Pride celebration, and we're gonna make every single kid who maybe is gonna hear or read that comment see 10 comments more or feel 10 times more love to drown that out. Because the reality is progress is slow. Sometimes when something is founded from a place of necessity, the people who understand why it exists feel more passionate about ensuring that it endures, because we understand what's at stake. We cannot be complacent. I don't think it's a coincidence that we already have over 400 volunteers signed up for this June. I don't think it's a coincidence that it is going to be our largest Pride celebration ever. Yes, it's our 20th anniversary. I think it's more than that.
And whether you're here in St. Pete or across the bay in Tampa, there are so many places where you can show your pride year-round. Jabari Thomas takes you on a tour.
Starting right here in St. Petersburg is the hub of it all. the Metro LGBTQ Plus Welcome Center is off Central Avenue.
Offering information for the surrounding area. It also serves as a resource hub for the LGBTQ community and as a safe space.
Right down the street in the heart of St. Pete's Edge District, you can't miss
the neon rainbow lights of Enigma Bar and Lounge, where a lot of people are expected to head right after the parade. And across the bay, you know Tampa shows its pride. Right here, we're at the center of what locals call the Gabor District in Ybor City.
Hey, a popular spot is Bradley's on 7th. A great place to visit any day of the week.
And even more after the Tampa Pride Parade. That was back in March.
Just a block away is another Ybor City staple, Southern Nights Tampa.
They bring in big artists, from famous drag queens you've seen on TV to LGBTQ celebrities and DJs. Either side of the bay, you'll find a place to show your pride.
Showing your pride looks different for everyone. The original rainbow flag, created by Gilbert Baker, first appeared in 1978. Since then, we have seen the creation of flags for more specific identities, like transgender, bisexual, and non-binary. In 2018, non-binary artist Daniel Quasar designed the Progress Pride flag, which is a redesign of Baker's vision to include representation for transgender and non-binary people, also people of color, and people who are currently battling or have lost their battle with AIDS. Despite the progress that we have made, some say that policies we are now seeing here in Florida are reminiscent of attacks on the LGBTQ community from decades ago. Miguel Octavio explores what has and hasn't changed from perspectives past and present.
When Governor Ron DeSantis signed the Parental Rights and Education Bill into law, supporters say it was a win for parents. Protecting our children, DeSantis argued, from indoctrination in the classroom. But critics say the language used sounded all too familiar.
Anita was silly, but she achieved what she set out to do.
He's talking about Anita Bryant, the face of Florida Citrus in the 70s. She went on to lead the Save Our Children campaign against gay rights.
You have no rights as a gay person. You're just a sick individual.
It started in Miami-Dade County and eventually ended in the successful repeal of a law barring discrimination against gays at work and in housing. Fast forward to 2022.
It didn't seem as bad then. The hatred didn't seem as all-pervasive as it is now.
Supporters of the new law are adamant. There is no language in it that says, "Don't say gay."
Parents have a fundamental role in the education, healthcare, and well-being of their children.
But critics argue we're already seeing chilling effects of the new law. A Lee County teacher recently claimed she was fired for discussing her sexuality. Another teacher in Sarasota reported being asked to remove their coexist flag. Then there's the graduation speech that went viral. This class president says he was told he couldn't discuss being gay, so instead he used his curly hair as euphemism. Students nationwide walked out in protest over the new law, like Gibbs High School's Abby Garrettson.
For it to say that me or my parents or the love that I grew up with was wrong in some way is hurtful.
Abby says she felt she had to speak up for her classmates and care for her two heartbroken mothers. Today may bring haunting memories of the past for some, but Stanley believes it gives more reason to be proud.
We're here, we're queer, get used to it.
Across the nation, there are also ongoing debates over how transgender athletes can compete. In Florida, that included the governor declaring Sarasota native Emma Wyant the winner of the NCAA's 500-meter swim. That's despite the organization naming transgender athlete Leah Thomas as the winner. Organizations dedicated to helping members of our transgender community here in Florida say now more than ever, they need your support.
There's this dialogue about us that tries to strip away our humanity. And at the end of the day, we are still human beings. We still bleed red like everyone else, and we want to just be happy. I think a lot of the times when people don't understand something, they fear it, and then fear turns into violence. The disproportionate rate of violence that trans people face, particularly Black trans women, is astronomical. Last year was 57 plus known murders of trans people, was the deadliest year on record.
What can someone do
right now?
One way that I say you can be a better ally is challenge your friends and family. And what I mean by that is all of us have been around and heard anti-LGBTQ plus slurs or conversations. And when you hear that, I challenge you to just ask someone, why do you think that way? Because a lot of the times the people in your circle, you have that opportunity to make the light bulb go off.
And there are resources to help. Angelina Salcido explains.
How do you feel the trans community is doing right now?
It's Pride Month, so in some ways we're seeing one another in spaces and at events where we haven't seen one another for a long time, so that's great. And where we're at in COVID, and we can, have some time together, share some hugs. But the other reality in our state, the political landscape looks a little tough, and we've been targeted as a community, the LGBTQ community broadly, but specifically the trans community, in really tough ways the last few years. And this community, just as everyone else is, right? We go to work, we raise families, we pay our taxes, and we're hoping to have some kind of an American dream to fulfill. But when survival is like the basic necessity for so many community members, it gets really hard to dream.
What resources are available to the trans community for support?
We've got Metro Inclusive Health and some other local nonprofits doing good work. Equality Florida's also put together a quarterly guide through their transaction network. There are a ton of national organizations as well. We at the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services have put together an LGBTQ resource guide with some of these resources.
And you can find those resources right now at 10tampabay.com. Don't go anywhere, because still ahead.
In our home, they're really just allowed to do whatever feels good to them.
Some may think it's a controversial decision, but this Florida parent says they are letting their child decide their own gender, why they say pronouns matter, especially at a young age. Plus, promoting inclusive healthcare, the local group that's working to make sure you know your status, no matter who you are. But before we head to break, we want to put a spotlight on a local LGBTQ-owned business that you could check out right now.
We make an effort to try to create a space that feels inclusive and safe. And when you're a little bit of an outsider yourself, you kind of have the idea of what it feels like to be othered and to maybe not belong. So we're always trying to evolve and get better and listen about what we can do to just make more people feel welcome.
Health empowerment through education. Metro Inclusive Health's approach has made it a mainstay here in Tampa Bay for LGBTQ healthcare. But they say knowing your status is something everyone should be aware of. Caitlin Lockerbie explains why.
Metro was founded 30 years ago with a sole emphasis on fighting the spread of HIV.
We had one service, which was HIV case management. So it was back in the 90s when we were helping folks that get access to care who were living with HIV.
Fast forward to today, Metro now has 4 locations, welcome centers, and mobile units, offering more than 100 services and programs focused on health and wellness. Access to testing for HIV and care remains a core priority.
Today, treatment is very, very efficient, it's very, very effective, it's very, very simplified, and someone who is diagnosed with HIV can receive treatment immediately. By the vast, vast majority of people will live a long, normal, healthy life with diagnosis and treatment at the right time.
That's key. Staying on top of your status. Metro helps patients understand their risk level and makes testing easy.
Gay males still remain at the highest risk level. The initial test we give folks has results in about a minute.
I took it to show just how quick and painless it is.
So you walk in the door, you do your paperwork, you get a little prick.
Was that it?
Yep. And before you can even sort of be ready to put your hat back on, you'll know what your result is.
Based on the results, your treatment and prevention steps are mapped out, and the next test is planned.
If you're sexually active, the recommendation is at least every 90 days.
A PrEP prescription is also available to help prevent the spread.
Now with PrEP, which stands for pre-exposure prophylaxis, it's a daily pill, 99% effective in preventing HIV. The greatest thing is that it's become so easy. Metro, we're really proud of it. We actually have a program called PrEP in 30. So we can actually get somebody in the door and out the door with PrEP prescription in 30 minutes.
From 3 decades ago to now, not only has Metro made access to care its mission, but its treatment options have evolved to make managing your status far more simple.
Acceptance like we see now didn't exist a generation ago. That's why some retirees flocked to America's first gay retirement community right here in Florida, in Palmetto. Liz Crawford spoke with 3 of its first tenants who moved in 20 years ago.
What does pride mean to you?
I think it's an opportunity to come together as a group and celebrate who we are and the fact that we've developed as a community.
I feel that it's a freedom for us gay people.
Being proud that you're gay instead of hiding it or like we used to do.
Mary, Ron, and Fred are good friends now. They live next door to one another in a gay-friendly retirement community in Manatee County, Florida. But they all traveled different paths to get here.
So I was very religious. And when I started as a young adolescent, I started praying for God to take away the gayness.
Well, I knew I was gay, but I didn't name it. And I could never bring it up to my family because they were staunch Catholics and it just wouldn't go over.
Believe it or not, I really came out while I was in the service.
Growing up gay brought on shame and isolation.
I was very depressed all through childhood.
But through the years, they found themselves and their way to the Palms of Minnesota.
I thought it was a wonderful concept, you know, gay people helping each other age.
Because it was the freedom, you know, to walk in the streets. If we wanted to hold hands, we could.
What is your advice to maybe someone out there who is still hating themselves because of who they are?
Find either a support group or a group of gay people and just start hanging around them. You'll feel better about yourself. You won't feel so alienated.
The biggest piece of it is to really go inside yourself and take a good look inside and just see how good you are.
Somebody asked me, if you had to do over again, would you choose to be gay? And I would tell them, hell yeah.
From one generation to the next, Liz also caught up with the Florida family who went viral for raising a gender-neutral baby. You may have heard them use the term baby. Well, now we check back in to see how that parenting approach is working out.
From here, you see everything.
Curious. Imaginative.
Okay, where do you want to go?
Let's go to the moon. Playful. Sparrow is your typical 4-year-old.
It's been amazing. It's been very different from raising my first to raising this one.
Arlo Dennis keeps Sparrow's biological sex a secret, instead opting to allow Sparrow to figure out their own gender when ready.
But in our home, they're really just allowed to do whatever feels good to them. So they're still using they, them, but sometimes they'll be like, maybe I want to be a girl. And it's like, well, what does a girl mean to you? And you know, the answers are always different.
It works for now, but with kindergarten in the not too distant future.
When we get to that point of gender divide in the classroom, I'm really hoping that Sparrow will be empowered enough to be like, I feel like a girl, so I'm going to do the girl line, or I feel like a boy and I'm going to do the boy line, or I feel like I'm Sparrow, but today I'm going to pick this line that works for me.
Arlo decided to take this parenting approach after their own journey with gender. Arlo is non-binary and uses they, them pronouns.
And so for me, being non-binary is just breaking that mold and living a very individual human experience rather than trying to adhere to a bunch of rules or protocols for one role or another.
Pronouns have become a bit more front and center in recent years. Maybe you've seen them listed in someone's email signature or on their name badge. A subtle message.
It is about how they want to navigate the world and how they want to be perceived by other people.
In 2019, Merriam-Webster named the pronoun they its word of the year, a gender-neutral alternative to she or he.
So when I have people acknowledge my not manness and not womanness and see me as just a person, a human, I feel illuminated. I feel like I'm glowing.
A feeling Arlo wants Sparrow to discover on their own terms.
Discovering yourself could include finding new ways to express yourself. Next, we show you the world of drag and how the art form is taking shape on both sides of the bay. But first, here's another LGBTQ-owned business you can support in our area.
For us, it came from a place of immediately thinking that everyone was welcome. We didn't segregate, we didn't ask anyone based on your religious beliefs, political beliefs, whatever it was. We felt that this was a place where you could come and just be who you are.
Our biggest thing when we started this was a safe place for everybody, and we only speak ice cream here.
The concept of drag can be traced back centuries, but the modern drag queen, quintessentially queer. As politicians here in Florida and other states threaten to criminalize taking kids to drag shows, local queen Christina Taylor says she just wishes everyone could understand and experience the true art behind the act. Hi. Out of drag, this is what she looks like in drag. Gorgeous, snatched. So she's gonna try and work her magic on me today. Challenge accepted.
We're gonna turn you out.
Ooh, girl.
We're gonna turn you out.
All right, I've always wanted to do this.
We're gonna do it.
All right, let's do it. I mean, people develop whole looks, whole personas.
Absolutely. I mean, you're creating a whole nother person, essentially. Like, I found most of my confidence comes from my drag. Well, it's not necessarily something to get. I think drag for a lot of people is just a form of self-expression, revealing another part of your identity in a way. I think everyone should do it at least one time. I would describe my drag as glamorous. I would say campy. I would definitely say cutesy, but face card is always on.
How different is Chris from Christina?
Chris, definitely more reserved, a little bit more quiet. Christina, on the other hand, it's crazy. It's like, put it all on, I just really do feel like a different person, per se. I feel way more confident. I feel like I walk into a room and I command it.
What is the local drag scene like here? How would you describe it?
I would say Tampa drag is classic Southern drag, but it's not exclusively that, because there are some great artists here who, you know, do a little bit more gender non-conforming, more alternative drag. When you cross into St. Pete, that alternative side is a little bit more prominent, and I love it. I love every kind of drag. Like, as long as you are entertaining, you are good at drag. I think the more people that do it, the more accepted it's gonna become. Because look at it now, I mean, you're seeing drag queens doing collaborations with these huge brands. You're seeing a lot of queer visibility, which is something that you wouldn't have seen 10 years ago.
No. I mean, we were talking about how mainstream drag has become, but I think there is still a misunderstanding or a hesitancy.
And art is supposed to give people a reaction. That's the biggest part. If you're not reacting to an art, it's not impactful. So regardless of whatever reaction audiences may have, whether it be positive or negative, can't really do anything about it, because art is supposed to make you feel something.
Yeah, you're not doing this in a bubble. I mean, you want to get people to think one way or the other, right?
Yeah. I think to people watching who are a little bit like confused and freaked out about it, I would just say like not to take it too seriously. That's the most important part. This, in essence, this is just supposed to be fun. Like, would you freak out over a painter or like an artist painting on a canvas? It's the same thing.
Oh my God. Wow.
Are you feeling it?
I am feeling it. Proof that drag is not a contact sport, but it is one of endurance. Those ladies work hard. We had an absolute blast, and we hope all of you do too as you celebrate. From all of us here at 10 Tampa Bay, happy Pride.